Hi everyone, welcome to our first C-VILLE live event. We're so excited to have everyone here in the audience, everyone watching online. So thank you for coming, this should be really fun. With us today we have the organizers of the 28th Virginia Film Festival presented by the University of Virginia. To my left is Jody Kobasa. He's the director of the festival and also vice provost of the arts for the University of Virginia. And to his left is Wesley Harris, who is programmer of the festival. So thank you guys for coming. I know this is a crazy, busy week. We're on the eve of the festival. It runs Thursday through Saturday, so we really appreciate you taking the time out, talking with us, answering some of our questions. So a little bit of background about the festival. So you all have more than 100 films. What's the total? What are we up to now?
You know, I don't think we've counted them. I do know the festival has expanded dramatically again this year. We've added 2 new screening venues, actually 3 new screening venues, and with that come a number of additional feature-length films that we're screening. So I think we have about at least 115 feature-length films this year. I think that's up from about 93 or 94 over last year. I don't think we've counted every single short film yet that we've got in the festival, but I'm pretty comfortable saying that we have probably over 130 films easily in this year's film festival.
Wow, that's great. And in addition to that, you have conversations with some of the directors, actors after the films. You have a Saturday Family Day, opening that gala, late night wrap party. I mean, you have all kinds of events that are going on too, not just films.
Well, I mean, that's true. I mean, part of the festival, I mean, the very term festival means to celebrate. And so for us, a festival, a truly full-fledged festival, is a celebration of the art of film, but also a celebration within our community. We bring in this year well over 125 guest artists, filmmakers, people that are what I call history makers or social change agents like Larry Kramer. And of course, we rely upon not only the University of Virginia, which has an extraordinary group of scholars that serve as experts to comment on these films and the issues and topics that they're about, but we bring in a lot of community experts and experts from outside as well to join in to flesh out discussions and engage our community here in Charlottesville and beyond a little bit more completely. And that's the concept behind the festival. The Family Day is, really we're introducing an audience of the future to film, and it's a great way to engage kids. We have 600 elementary school students that create, edit, produce, direct, and act in their own films that are screened as part of Family Day every year, and free movies for families. In many cases, the first time parents end up taking their kids to a movie theater sometimes is at the Virginia Film Festival to see something like this year's Pixar shorts or Babe. It's a really kind of family-friendly environment. They don't have to worry if their kids kind of act up or have trouble sitting through it because there's a bunch of other parents in the exact same boat in that theater with them. So it's a great environment to do this.
Awesome. So how are you going to know everything that's going on? We have something for you. So this is our latest issue of C-VILLE Weekly, and this is our Film Fest issue. So in it you'll find a schedule of all the movies. We have features on some of the notable guests this year: Leonard Maltin, Larry Kramer, Bill Plimpton we interviewed. We also kind of break down some of the films that have Virginia connections, and those are spotlight throughout the feature. So pick this up today before the Film Fest starts.
And I want to very quickly give C-VILLE a lot of credit for the growth of the film festival, which has really exploded the last 6 or 7 years. And a lot of it, we believe, has to do with this program that you're about to show here, and the fact that about 7 years ago we went to a glossy program that was a little bit less on academic treatises and more on the actual films themselves, the synopses, to make the festival really understandable to the general audience out there. And as a result of that, our attendance has exploded. We've increased the number of films, and the coverage that C-VILLE offers all the arts in our community, in particular the film festival, is extraordinary. So thank you.
We appreciate that. So this, you can pick this up at Violet Crown Cinema on the Downtown Mall, which is the official headquarters this year for the Film Fest. So this is your guide for everything happening. So people who want to buy tickets, they can go online to virginiafilmfest.org, or they can buy them in person at Violet Crown.
VirginiaFilmFestival.org is the quickest and easiest way to go online for the program, but our festival headquarters and box office are on the downtown mall at the new Violet Crown Cinemas, or at the University Arts box office at the Betsy and John Castine Arts Grounds at the University of Virginia.
Okay, great. So a little bit about our format. I'm going to ask some questions from C-VILLE, then we're going to open up to the audience, see what kind of questions you all have. And for anyone watching on social media through Periscope or following along on our live tweeting, you can ask questions at CVilleNews_desk, or you can use the hashtag CVilleLive, and we'll ask your questions as well. All right, so what do we have for you guys? So tell me about the planning process for this. I mean, this has to be a year-round process. When do you start? How many films do you watch before you have that final lineup? What does that look like for you guys?
Well, I'm going to speak briefly and then turn it over to Wesley, who really runs the book programming and the call for entries process for the Virginia Film Festival. But we start every year in mid to late January when both of us travel out to the Sundance Film Festival, and we spend 8 to 10 days out there seeing as many films as we possibly can, networking. I think between us we'll see 50 to 60 films every year, and very little crossover. We're not going to the same films. Occasionally we do, but I would say that probably we'll see 55 different films between us. And that really starts the process for us. During the course of the year, there's a number of other films that for any given year we go or don't go to. The film festivals that include South by Southwest, Telluride, the AFI Doc Film Festival. This year we were trying to get to the True False Film Festival, which is a great boutique festival, but got snowed in during that snowstorm in Charlottesville and didn't make it there. River Run, Full Frame, and a few others as well. And that helps inform the process. We're going, we're watching films. We're also viewing other film festivals to see what they do well, what they don't do so well, so we don't make those mistakes and we continue to bring a better festival here to Charlottesville. But Wesley, why don't you share the other part of the process, if you would?
Sure. What that traveling around does for us is it allows us to be very much of the moment in terms of what artists are bringing their newest, most current work out on the scene, sharing it with other programmers, with other artists. So that's the kind of one of the three sort of main avenues that as I see it, that inform our programming. That one of traveling out, searching out, sleuthing around, trying to track down these new films that are premiering at festivals around the world, beyond the ones that we attend. We will follow very closely the programming at, say, Berlin or Locarno or Karlovy Vary, Vienna, Venice, a lot of festivals we would love to go to Venice each year, right? But that's not.
We're working on that.
I'll ask the Vice Provost for the Arts for funding for that next year. They work.
Me first.
So that's the kind of the one of the main ways, that active way of going out, sleuthing, finding it, bringing it home here to Charlottesville. One of the other main ways is through our tremendous advisory board, which is comprised of mostly UVA alumni. But these are individuals working at the highest levels of the film industry in Los Angeles and New York, and here in Charlottesville and elsewhere throughout the country. So a lot of times to take the example of this year, our opening night film, I Saw the Light, the Hank Williams new biographic story, is directed by our longtime board member, Mark Abraham. So that's how we have the great luxury of being able to tap into the industry at these very highest levels. And then there are just advocates of ours, our board, in the industry, in addition to their own projects that they're making and bringing into us. They'll help us navigate those waters in a bi-coastal way, more than we could do on our own. And then finally, there is the call for entries that we mount each year. That opens typically late winter, early spring, which is open to any filmmaker in the world to submit their film, narrative, documentary, feature, or short, experimental, animation, anything, for consideration here. And we have a huge number of films that come in that way.
How many films do you get when you put out a call to entry? I mean, how many do you have to sift through? And
this year it was about 900 or so. So that's on top of the, all of the. I mean, it is solidly within the I don't know, middle 4 digits or something at least titles that we're considering or that we're trying to chart the release of. There's a certain kind of prognostication about it, especially when we're at Sundance in January, where we're trying to look 7 or 8 months into the future and figure out what might make sense for our program announcement in the fall, and then to actually include here in the festival in November. So it's a big balancing act, because there's a lot of levels, there are a lot of layers, and there are a lot of spheres of conversation and voice that we want to tap into and bring home here to Charlottesville.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So when do you make that final selection? We've got it all done?
5 minutes before the announcement.
I bet.
No, I mean, this year at least, we did have a sort of unusual example where we had a second wave of announcements this year. We had about 25 additional films that we added after our press announcement and launch party at the Jefferson a month and a half or so back. We were able to roll in a couple dozen more films to allow people to sift through and try to chart a track through our 4 days. So that was a cool experiment that I think is paying off pretty well this year.
Yeah, and I'll comment briefly. I mean, any festival is a very fluid process as you get close to sort of announcing your program. We don't ever share how many declines we get, whether it's with guest artist talent or films themselves, because we would have a really bad batting average. We like to just share the successes, but I can share with you that the film Ithaca, which is Meg Ryan's directorial debut, we actually confirmed that it would be part of our lineup the night before we made the announcement, and that was at 9:30 at night, and I was emailing staff and saying, okay, we're going to roll this into the announcement tomorrow, and the next day we were updating our Prezi presentation, adding it into the press release and all that sort of thing, so it was very fluid, and I had been on the stage before and literally heard my phone go off and looked at it and realized that we've added somebody to the festival. So that does happen. As Wesley mentioned, we added a number of films, finalized those and added them into the final lineup about a week or so after our original announcement. And then most recently, something we've never done before, which is the addition of a sneak preview film, a mystery film on Saturday evening in the Paramount, which is a risk for us. It's our largest venue, 1,040 seats, but it's a major Hollywood studio release with big movie stars that's going to be coming out a couple of weeks later. And the studio agreed to give it to us as long as we didn't announce it in advance. So I'll tell everybody what that film is at 9 o'clock, about 2 minutes before we start to roll it. So that's great. And we've got a great advanced sales. We've already sold over 300 tickets, which is phenomenal considering nobody knows what the film is. So there's a little bit of a trust factor going on here with the community, and we hope they rise to the occasion.
Sure. So when you're bringing in A-list celebrities' names, I mean, how do you prepare for that? What do you tell them about our festival? What do you show them in Charlottesville? What's that like?
Well, I want to comment to this. I think that one of the things that we pride the Virginia Film Festival on is being a little bit different. That Charlottesville is a very savvy community. They're not star stalkers. They don't start running people down for autographs and photographs. People are generally cool about that here and pretty respectful, which is great. And so, when we're bringing these people in, and sure, they're excited, but I mean, we've had years when we haven't had a tremendous lineup of talent, and the community's turned out for the films. And I've been told that those have been some of the best years because the films have been extraordinary and people have loved the discussions, which is really a testament that, people are in this for the right reasons. They care about the films themselves, the issues the films bring up, the art. But when we do get the stars in or the celebrities, everybody really is really interested in hearing what they have to say. And we haven't had people sort of fawning or falling all over themselves because the Hollywood stars come in. And I think that is great. We tell the guests coming in, you're going to be treated as a film artist. And that the discussion is going to be incredible, really at a level that you might not have encountered at other film festivals. We're not going to have a red carpet walk. That's not what we're about here. It's really about that discussion that happens on the stage about the work that you've done. And there's a real deep appreciation for that. And our board is very much that way as well. I know when I was hired to come here 7 years ago, I flew out to interview with the board, and they were very concerned that I came from a community that was a little bit more about that kind of star power and that red carpet walk, and they were very concerned that I was going to move the festival in that direction. And instead, I said it's really important that the festival reflects our community. And we've gone about to continue to build the festival to do that. So I think that's one of the really attractive and cool things about the festival. It's a little bit more laid back than a lot of other experiences that these stars have at the festivals, where they come in and there's a red carpet walk and they're signing autographs and there's a bunch of photographers. I think it's a good, healthy thing for us as well and for them.
Yeah. So I want to make sure we have some time for audience questions. So if anyone has a question, raise your hand and we'll get that asked. I can see people want to ask questions, but they just don't want to raise their hand.
I personally have a question.
Okay.
So you guys have met a lot of celebrities. A lot of celebrities have come to Charlottesville. I've been jealous because I haven't had a chance to meet some of my favorites. But has there been one that has caused you to be starstruck? I mean, you've met a lot, I know, but anyone where you just...
So have they ever been
wow.
starstruck?
Well, my first experience at the Virginia Film Festival was as an intern exactly 1 decade ago. I think I was John Kelly's intern that year, so you can see where that can lead things.
John.
And just as an undergraduate student at the time, I was really smitten to be able to spend a little pocket of time with Harold Ramis when he was here in 2005. We showed Groundhog Day and a new film of his, was it The Ice Harvest, I think. And for me, that was my first kind of entree into what it could feel like to be sharing those spaces together. The festival was in a much different place then. It wasn't nearly at the scale toward which we've built it at this point. So I had that, I was still sort of a hybrid audience member, worker thing as an intern, but for me, I have a really sweet memory of being able to meet Egon at the Virginia Film Festival.
For me, it's actually two people who are not actors. It's the year that we brought in Woodward and Bernstein, and I had an opportunity to have dinner with them and Governor Belial's with my wife just before the screening and talk to them, and it was 5 days before the presidential election, and they were dishing on their thoughts and perspectives, and truly were kind of interested in ours as sort of lay people out there, not directly involved as journalists or in the political process, and they were funny and engaging and warm. And for me, I was in high school at the height of the Watergate crisis and read all the President's Men, saw the film probably 5 times, read the book 12 times, and these guys were legends to me. They shaped the course of our country's history, and so I wouldn't say I was starstruck, but it was just deeply meaningful for me to meet them and to see what I thought was a really transcendent conversation on the stage at the Paramount. And I saw people walk out and they came up to me and they were glowing after that discussion. They just said, this was exceptional. This was an exceptional evening. And I'm very proud of that moment for the film festival and also for our community here. So that would be it for me.
Any other questions? Yes.
I've got kind of a question, I think, for Wes. I'm interested in how you sort of shape your decisions on what to put in and what not to put in the festival, if it's like a holistic approach as far as like looking at the entire festival, or if you look at it often as an opportunity to get like a certain type of movie in front of audiences that might not get an audience otherwise.
Yeah, it's definitely a balance of a little bit of each of those things, sometimes all at once. Because we're not programming in a vacuum. We're not in a bubble somewhere pulling together this Apollonian ideal idea of a program. We're programming for the Virginia Film Festival. We know our audiences here. That's a big part of what we do, is know who we're programming toward. I've always been an audience first type of approach in programming, but which isn't to say that we're aiming to preach to the choir at the same time necessarily, or in and of itself. We do have a mission of championing Virginia filmmaking, and we have the amazing luxury that there's a huge amount of incredible filmmaking being done in the state at all different levels. But beyond that, yeah, we do absolutely want to try to push certain buttons beyond what might normally be considered a comfort zone. So what we do is I look at, you've seen the big board in my office, the big dry erase board where we move around and slot and look at all of our venues, all of the times and blocks where these films might work best. And and sync together into a puzzle that makes
Find an audience.
absolutely right, to not cannibalize an audience by putting similarly themed competing events. All of that shifting around is a huge part of crafting that experience. To the point of the broadening or the button pushing part of it, we use our sort of our big event screenings, opening, centerpiece, closing night, as well as some of our other big high-tier gala screenings as sort of a magnet or an anchor. I think about it a little bit like urban planning. You look at, or just to think of the Barracks Road Shopping Center. You've got Harris Teeter at one end, you got Kroger at the other, you got Barnes & Noble in the middle. You have an opening night film, some boutique international films, a centerpiece, some documentaries there, spaced apart such that they work together in a synergistic way. And then what it does, and this is the biggest thing, it democratizes, it opens the doors, it lets air in the room for the festival and helps it feel less intimidating and more welcoming to an audience that might not normally take a chance on a lot of the films that we show. Because they'll come and they'll be attracted to some of that star power, some of those high-profile events, and then trickle laterally throughout the program, throughout the weekend, and maybe take a chance on something that they wouldn't normally go out to see.
You know, and I might add, just like the Barracks Road Shopping Center, where you can't find a parking space on most days, we hope that the festival is like that as well. You can't find a seat for most of our screenings. And you know, seriously, over the years, Wesley and I have a dialogue about this, and I think this is a really wonderful thing. First of all, the difference in our age, the difference in our perspectives. We have different perspectives that we bring to the table on subjects that interest us, the way we look at films, which is really makes for a very healthy artistic partnership. Because there are some things that are not my cup of tea that Wesley says we've got to screen this, and I say you're absolutely right, we do, because we're going to reach a very different audience, and that's the same thing for Wesley with me. And the concept for us is there are a lot of artistic directors that treat their work as something that's extraordinarily precious, and it's for them. And that audience out there is either going to get it, they're going to love it, or they're not, and they don't care. And I actually have a very different philosophy from programming. We want to reach an audience. We want to program films that resonate. We also want to stretch our audience as well. We just don't want to push them over the cliff. We want people to experience the films that we're bringing and the guest artists that we're bringing in. And the great thing is the dialogue that Wesley and I have every year going back and forth are what are the parts of our community that we're reaching and touching with the films that we're bringing in. Are we reaching the African American community? Are we reaching the LGBTQ community? Do we have films that are balanced from around the world that open up windows on other cultures so we can take a look at the differences and the similarities? Do we have films about religion and politics? Do we have a good mix of independent films for up-and-coming filmmakers? Because part of what we want to do is we want to allow the filmmakers of tomorrow their opportunity to grow and to share their art. Do we have classic films? We really look for a balance. Do we have films that deal just with important subjects, whether it's health or it's sustainability or it's locally sourced food? We really carefully look at all of these things. And in any given year, sure, we're going to miss some things because you're only as good as the product that's out there. But we really try and cover the entire field. And that's one of the reasons why the festival keeps growing, is there's all these great opportunities. We have a very broad canvas to paint on. And that's what's exciting and, for me, personally gratifying when we can program films that reach these segments of the community. And it's about community building and building partnerships with other social service organizations, other cultural institutions, many of them who cannot kind of drive that sort of high-profile publicity that the festival does, but we can shine a light on the topic. I mean, we have 2 films that deal with autism this year, and we're partnering with autism groups in the community, and it's that type of outreach that's really important to us in terms of building community through film and through an artistic organization.
Yes.
Talk about the way the UVA connection informs and enhances the festival.
Well, I mean, that's an extraordinarily important connection. I mean, we are part of the University of Virginia, so part of our mission is to program and engage students on the grounds of the university and to utilize our faculty in a meaningful way. But, you know, one of the changes that when I came here, and I'll share this with you, 7 years ago, as I went out in the community and I talked to a lot of people and I said, so what's your impression of the Virginia Film Festival? And I heard over and over and over again, it's that thing UVA does. And I'm like, ooh, it's not good. It's really not good. It should be a bridge. It should be a bridge to the community that reaches out into the community and that people can come onto the grounds and that students and faculty can leave the grounds and go out into the community and engage in a dialogue, and it should be accessible and open and interesting. And so we started to shift and we dropped the overarching theme for the festival because I thought it was really confining us. You know, we did about half the program back then, about 60 to 70 films each year, and a lot of them were archival films that were fitting the theme that year. And if it was a great theme, fine. If it was a less interesting theme, the festival suffered in terms of attendance. And so the shift was to creating a contemporary film festival that was screening, as Wesley suggested, the very best cinema that's on the festival circuit in a given year, that had a broader reach in our community, allowing us to partner with these social service organizations and other cultural institutions, and to create a footprint in our community. And I think that that's what we've done, and we've certainly worked very hard to that effect. But what UVA allows us to do is, more than anything, it's a tremendous resource out there. It really, really is, in terms of the sort of intellectual firepower and creative firepower of the scholars and academics that are there that we can bring to bear to talk about a lot of the films. But we don't stop there. UVA also attracts a lot of outside experts. I talked about Woodward Bernstein earlier. There's a lot of people that are people that have had tremendous experiences that will come here because of UVA. And then we can bring in experts in the community. And when you have the experts from UVA, the scholars, and you've got outside experts coming in, whether they're political or social change agents, and then you've got these community experts, that's a really incredible and very powerful cocktail to pull together. And that's what we've been doing, and UVA allows us to do that.
How do you reach the community? You have approximately how many volunteers you guys have working for the festival?
I'm sorry.
How do you reach the community, and how many volunteers do you guys have? What does your force look like?
Okay, well, you know, each year we work with well over 200 volunteers. I think initially we get over 300, 350 inquiries, and then when the dust settles, there's some that fall by the wayside because, you know, for obvious reasons, their work schedule doesn't fit or something happens to their lives that they can't attend. But we generally work with a force of roughly 200 people to put on the festival. We just had our annual volunteer orientation meeting on Monday evening, and we could not do this without the community volunteers. I mean, it's more than them serving as ushers. It's remarkable the work that they do. They drive our guests around. They take tickets. They help us run Family Day. It is extraordinary. And we've had some people, this is my 7th Virginia Film Festival. We have one individual who's run the driver's suite for 28 years volunteering. We have a number of people that are in their 10th, their 12th, their 15th year. It's extraordinary, the commitment that they offer to put this on for the community because they believe it's an important community event and they love it. So, you know, we're thrilled. In terms of reaching them, it's our website. In the past, C-VILLE's been kind enough to run ads for us as a community service. Any way that we possibly can. Facebook, we have a volunteer coordinator who helps coordinate, and you know, she expands her list every year. There are some students, but it's not really largely made up of student volunteers, and the vast majority are people from the community.
So we have some social media questions.
What makes Virginia such a unique place to create film?
I think it harkens back a little bit to what we were saying earlier about the experience that our attending guest artists have here. And a huge part of that is because part of our partnership with the Virginia Film Office, based out of Richmond, their mission is to bring productions, scouts, filmmakers to the state to shoot here. I mean, all you have to do this time of year is to walk outside and look around, especially here in Charlottesville, and it makes pretty clear sense pretty quickly. The type of images you can capture just by opening your eyes or turning on your camera. There's also just a really organic and enthusiastic filmmaking scene here in the area and throughout the state. There isn't a huge feeling of spiteful competition the way that there might be in parts of a larger industry town. So we're able to hit that sweet spot, I think. And the reason we have guests coming back year after year is because not just the work we do at the festival, but the tone and timbre and beauty of Charlottesville and the state of Virginia more broadly brings them back. They create new ambassadors for us, kind of like what I was saying about our board earlier. With each industry guest artist that we bring in, we're creating a new ambassador for the state and for our festival, because they come here, they look around, they have an amazing experience, both substantively within the program, the conversations in the festival, but also just the physical space and the time of year that we bring them here. It makes our job easy to show off the beauty that's surrounding us, because it's sitting right there outside.
Yeah.
What are some hidden gems of this festival? Some films that might not be on the average filmgoer's radar that are must.
Yeah, hidden gems of the festival.
Yeah, that maybe falls under the group of the broadening stuff, that trickling laterally through the program. There's some really lovely local and international films, documentary and narrative, that I think will be really exciting to audiences and ones that they wouldn't be able to find otherwise. On that local front, even just to sort of pull these 2 points together into an answer, there's some intensely experimental art film being made right here in town by filmmakers like Kevin Everson, who we've had in the festival for a number of years. Lydia Moyer is a video artist who her work over the past 7 or 8 years has coalesced into a standalone feature documentary project called Paradise that we'll be screening. We are able to give a snapshot into some of the top films from the fall festival circuit to look at what has performed well at Venice and Toronto and Telluride and New York. So films like Peter Greenaway's new film, who people might know from The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover, will be showing his new piece, Eisenstein in Guanajuato, which is an imagining of about a 10-day period in the life of the Soviet director Sergei Eisenstein's life that he spent down in Mexico when he couldn't quite pull it off and make it work in Hollywood. We'll be showing a new film by Guy Madden called The Forbidden Room. We'll be showing Cemetery of Splendor by the Thai auteur director Apichatpong Weerasethakul.
Oh, you practiced that.
I was planted. I was told I had to say it by our publicist. But there is a lot, and both from the highest levels of international art film to the scrappiest independent levels, with films like Christmas Again that we'll be screening, that has played in around spots in Brooklyn and probably Barry as well, I think.
The first saw at Sundance.
And the way that the films come to us, that we'll be doing both at once. I mean, at Sundance we'll be seeing some of the highest big guest-driven films, but also finding those little nuggets too at the same time. So it all comes together into a brain, and there's a lot of stuff to sift through and find and get excited about.
You know, I think one of the great things about filmmaking and one of the great things about the festival is that it's really ultimately about storytelling, and there are so many great stories to be told out there. And for instance, there's a beautiful and very compelling, powerful, and inspirational documentary called Until 20, which I hope people go out and see. I really, really do. It's the story of a young man who's diagnosed with bone cancer. It's terminal when he's 12. He's on a tennis circuit playing internationally. He's a rising young kid doing well and has to give that up, and takes up golf, and he's fighting this disease, hopeful, fighting it, and decides to go to college. And he plays golf on the college team, even though he's really in the last year of his life. And it's how he approaches living his life that's so uplifting and extraordinary. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story that I think that a lot of people might find hope and inspiration in seeing. And there's so many little gems like this throughout the festival that I think they're really, really important and great stories, and also not as obvious as some of the titles. But that is the real joy for anybody who really sifts through the festival program, is that sense of discovery when you find a film that it's highly unlikely you're ever going to see at the Cineplex. But it's worth that story being told and shared.
Awesome. Well, that's all the time we have for our first C-VILLE Live. Thank you to Jody and Wes for coming today and being our guests. Thank you to everyone in the audience and everyone who was watching this on our YouTube channel and on our website. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.